All right. So speaking of analytics, I'm sure you talk to the teams at times. You have a good feel for it. Some teams have bigger analytics departments than others. How are they right now, currently, for the most part, using analytics to help them make decisions?
Yeah, so there's four main avenues for analytics to have intervention in football, and it's talent as one side and games the other. So talent, it's talent acquisition. Who should I bring into my program? That's from free agencies, from draft, talent development. How do I make the people in my building better? Whether it's from a health and safety standpoint, a strength and conditioning standpoint, it's monitoring what they do in practice to see where they could have a better feel, and data that goes into that. The next is where fans mostly hear about it is game planning, and this is actually this is where fans or where it's been in football forever. Football was the first analytics sport. Steve Belichick invented scouting years and years ago, and be able to give tendencies on what certain teams will be able to do. I had this in middle school. How often are they in an under front? How often are they in a Sam on front? How often do they run certain coverages? That's been around forever, but now we have it goes into game in-game management, and so that's where fans hear about it a lot on fourth down decisions of how do teams make decisions in game using analytics. I'd probably say half the teams have someone on the coach's headset right now that will help them make those decisions, but it still comes down to that coach. And I think what's important is what fans see on Twitter is not the same type of models that is not exactly the same type of models that you'll have in game, because there is a rule against using live technology outside what's provided by the league, which your predictive models are not, your win probability models are not provided in the league. So it's not a dynamic model. If something was to change in the game, whether a quarterback got hurt or certain players got hurt, or they came in playing a bear front and they're playing a goal line 6-2, that would change how a model would want to be presented from a team perspective, because they get to be as in depth as possible. But from a uh, from a team perspective, from an online perspective, it's dynamic. It's taking in a lot of information. The next gen stats decision guide takes in as much information as possible, but not every the models in stadium are analog. They are on paper. They're called a book. So you have to print it out and make the decisions that way, versus the ones that you'll see online are dynamic and live.
That's a really good point, which is essentially things happen during the game that could affect the model, but the model for the teams is not able to adjust during the game to those in-game factors. So the coach has to take the information from the model and then take into account whatever he's seen or whatever factors he might deem to be especially relevant based on what's happened to that point.
Right, and their models coming into the game are more advanced than what someone can do online, because they know what they're going to run on 4th and 2. Right, so much of this is how are you going to make your goal line package? So what's important for as Eagles fan, uh, what the Eagles have done is they took data to say we need to be better on 4th down. And then they created a package for 4th down to be the best team. They convert 4th downs at a 90% clip. Why is that? Because they did the Bush push mechanic on Jalen Hurts on QB sneaks, and now they've built fly sweeps off of that. They've built fake lateral. They've built laterals off of that, pitches off of that, and so they created a game planning mechanic to be able to use 4th downs better. And data helps get them to why we need to build out this mechanic. A lot of teams have said, hey, it's 1 yard. We'll run 92 boom or lead dive or these basic plays that have been around football forever, but they use data to then be creative on how they utilize 4th down. So that's where it's at its best, because if you can convert a higher than league average or better, or in the certain matchup better than you've done previous weeks, because that's a different aspect of what makes the in-game models by the coaches better.
Sam, this is awesome. I guess my last question is how else could teams use analytics that maybe they're not yet?
Yeah, for me, I think I'd be a little more aggressive than what most teams do, but here's where it is. A lot of people say analytics is about information. Information to me is an issue right now by calling it that in the NFL, and this might be a semantics issue, but information doesn't mean there's actually application. So there's a lot of teams that have really great analytics teams, and then the teams never use that information, right? You need to be able to put insights and make it that, and that's why we call it insights. We're going deeper into it. We're giving you more than just the data to help. We're helping drive decision making, and that's how I would approach it and everything, because you want to see how can data, which has affected every business in this country, right? You don't want your financial analyst to not use data when making decisions, but all of a sudden their coach can't use data when making decisions. Those are pretty big things that you want someone to have as much information as possible. Go deeper with analytics in every place you can, because where data can't go is in how to motivate a team. With what Dan Campbell's done, he's using fourth down more. I don't know if it's driven by analytics or not, but you can't motivate your team. And what he's done to be able to motivate his team and get his team great, that's not something that a spreadsheet can do. But there's a lot of stuff a spreadsheet can do. It can be more organized. It can give you information that you can't see, can't compute all at one time. But in terms of the on-field designing the game, the plays right now, data does not do that. It does not motivate the team. Put data everywhere it can go, and then you can pour more time, more brain power into the areas that data cannot go.